Hello all, welcome to the next session on storage area networks. So in this session we will be discussing about the storage management examples. So how can we manage the storage infrastructure? We'll be just looking at some of the examples. Okay, so the first example is we'll be discussing how the storage allocation happens to a new server or a host. Okay, storage allocation to a new server. Now consider the deployment of a new relational database management system server or RDBMS server to the existing non-virtualized storage architecture, okay, the storage infrastructure. So consider the deployment of a new RDBMS server to the existing non-virtualized storage infrastructure. As a part of storage management activities that we discussed in the previous session, first the administrator needs to install and configure the host bus adapters and device drivers on the server before it is physically connected to the SAN. As the next step, the administrator needs to perform the zoning on the SAN switches to allow the new server to access to the storage array ports through its host bus adapters. Further, the administrator needs to configure the logical unit numbers on the array and assign these elements to the storage array front-end ports. The server then discovers the elements assigned to it by either a bus rescan process or sometimes through a server reboot, depending upon the operating system that is installed. Volume Manager may be used to configure the logical volumes and file systems on the host. The number of the logical volumes or the file systems to be created depends on how a database or an application is expected to use the shortage. The administrator's task also includes installation of a database or an application on the logical volumes or file systems that were created. The last step is to make the database or the application capable of using the new file system space. So this diagram shows us the activities performed on a server, a storage area network and a storage array for allocating of storage to a new server. As we can see here, so in the server, so what we need to do is, so volume management, we need to perform the file system management and the database management. So while the volume management takes place, so volume group will be created and allocated to the server. In the file management, the file system will be configured. In the database management, the database will be configured. So while talking about the storage area networks here, the host bus adapters need to be connected to the front-end ports through the switches, and we need to assign volumes to the server. Whatever volumes elements that we are going to create in the storage array, that has to be given, that has to be assigned to the new server. In the storage array, so unallocated storage will be used to create elements. Storage will be configured there, and one of these elements will be assigned to the server. Right? So this is how storage allocation happens to a new server or a host. Right? So the first step is the administrator needs to install and configure the host bus adapters and the device drivers on the server before it is physically connected to the storage area network. As the next step, the administrator needs to perform the zoning, that is the storage area network switches, to allow the new server to access to the storage array ports via its host bus adapters. Then the administrator need to reconfigure or need to configure the elements on the array and assign these elements to the storage array front-end ports. The server then discovers the elements assigned to it by either a bus rescan process or sometimes through a server reboot, depending upon the operating system that is installed. A volume manager may be used to configure the logical volumes and the file systems on the host. The number of logical volumes or file systems to be created depends on how a database or an application is expected to use the storage. The administrator's task also includes installation of a database or an application on the logical volumes of the file systems that were created, and as a last step is to make the database or the application capable of using the new file system space. So that is what is illustrated in this particular diagram, which specifies how a storage allocation is made to a new server or a host. Let us look at one more example for file system space management. Now this diagram here, it shows us the steps and the considerations for the extension of file systems in the flowchart. Now dynamic extension of file systems or a logical volume depends on the operating system or the logical volume manager in use. Let us briefly go through the flowchart here. First thing we need to do is correlate the file system with the volume group or the disk group. Once that is done, a condition has to be checked if there is free space available in the volume group. If it is yes, then we need to execute the command to extend the file system. If no, we need to check one more condition: does the server have additional devices available? If it is yes, we execute the command to extend the volume group, and we execute the command to extend the file system, and then we check a condition: is the file system being replaced? If yes, we need to perform the task to ensure that the larger file system and the volume group are replicated correctly. If no, we are going to terminate this particular activity, right? That ensures that the file system is not replicated, right? Now, so once the free space is available in the group, we execute the command to extend the file system, and we are going to replicate the file system, right? We are going to ensure that the file system is also replicated. If not, we check the second condition: does the server have additional space? If yes, execute the command to extend the volume group and extend the file system and repeat this process. If not, we need to check one more condition: does the array have configured logical unit numbers that can be allocated? If yes, we need to allocate new elements to the server, execute the command to extend the volume group, execute the command to extend the file system, and perform the task to ensure the larger file system and the volume group are replicated correctly. If not, we need to check one more condition, the last condition, that is, does the array have unconfigured capacity? If yes, we need to configure new elements. If not, we need to identify or procure another array, configure new volumes in it, new elements on it, allocate that new elements to the server, execute the command to extend the volume group, execute the command to extend the entire file system, and your file system will be extended. So that is one more example for file system space management. Let us look at this, continue the next example, that is example on chargeback report. Let us see what is this chargeback reports. Chargeback reports are used by the data center administrators to ensure that the storage consumers are well aware of the cost of the services that they have requested. Okay, so let me repeat that. Chargeback reports are used by the data center administrators to basically ensure that the storage consumers are well aware of the costs of the services that they have requested. Now this diagram here, it shows us the configuration deployed in a storage infrastructure. So 3 servers with 2 host bus adapters each connect to a storage array via switches, switch 1 and switch 2. Individual departmental applications run on each of the servers. Array replication technology is used to create both remote as well as local replicas. As we can see, we have the local replica and the remote replica as well. The production device is represented as A. Okay, these are the production device, it's represented as A, local replica is represented as B, and the remote replica device is represented as C. A report documenting the exact amount of storage resources used by each application is created using a chargeback analysis for each department. If the unit for billing is based on the amount of raw storage, that is usable capacity plus the production provided, so if the unit for billing is based on the amount of raw storage configured for an application used by the department, the exact amount of raw space configured must be reported for each application. Right? So here we have a sample report that shows the information for 2 applications, that is for the payroll application and the engineering 1 application. For the payroll application, the storage allocated is 100 GB, in which production storage, that is raw, it's 200 GB, local replica again it's 100 GB, remote replica 125 GB, so total storage raw is 425 GB. The chargeback cost is $5 per GB, $5 multiplied by this will be the total chargeback cost. So that is how the chargeback reports are generated, which will be used by the data centers to ensure that the storage consumers are well aware of the cost of the services that they have requested. It provides in detail a report of what is charged for which resource. So that is about the chargeback cost. So we discussed three examples. The first example was storage allocation to a new server. Second example was a file system space management, and the third one was about the chargeback report. Now let us try to discuss a bit about storage management examples, or the storage management challenges. What are the storage management challenges? So monitoring and managing today's complex storage infrastructure is challenging. Why? Because of the heterogeneity of the storage arrays, the networks, servers, databases, and applications in the environment. So there is a heterogeneity of storage arrays, networks, servers, databases, and applications in the environment. For example, heterogeneous storage arrays vary in their capacity, performance, protection, and architectures. Each of the components in the data center typically comes with a vendor-specific tools for management. An environment with multiple tools makes understanding the overall status of the environment challenging because the tools may not be interoperable. So an environment with multiple tools makes understanding the overall status of the environment challenging because the tools may not be interoperable. The tool that is working in one environment may not work in some other environment. Ideally, management tools should correlate information from all components in one place. Such tools provide an end-to-end view of the environment and a quicker root cause analysis for faster resolution to alerts. So these are the challenges. The first challenge is managing and monitoring. It's a huge challenge because of the heterogeneity of storage arrays, the networks, servers, databases, applications in the environment. And second challenge is an environment with multiple tools makes the understanding of the overall status of the environment challenging because of the lack of interoperability of the tools. So these are some of the challenges of storage infrastructure management. So in this video lecture we discussed three examples of storage infrastructure management, that is how to allocate storage to a new server, also how to manage the file system space, and what are chargeback costs. And in the end we discussed what are the storage infrastructure management challenges. With this, let us conclude this session. Thank you.